But then how to remove the sports chrono from the Panamera GTS 2013. It's probably the same for the earlier 2010 onwards, right up to probably the 971, I would imagine. Easy enough to change the clock on this, although it is trickier than changing the face. And it's gone a bit blurred on the speedo, but we'll go over that in a second. So the sports chrono, pop this trim panel out. There's a clip at the front, clip at the this front, and two at the back. This panel will pop up with a trim tool. Use a plastic trim tool so you don't mark your leather on top. And then once you've popped this panel out, flip it over. You can unplug the sports chrono clock and the, I think, which is the temperature sensor. I think so. There are two plugs under here. And then underneath this panel, bolting the clock in, are two Torx 20s. Undo the Torx 20s, and then you'll be able to hold the clock in your hand. Take it in the house. I'd take it in the house and I'd put it on a piece of white A4 or something on a table, so you can easily see the tiny clock hands, because the clock hands and the center hand, the second hand, literally just pop off. So if you just use a pick, like a right angle pick, put a right angle pick gently under the center needle, and it'll just pop off. And the two small hands, they literally just lift off, but they're very delicate, and they can easily sort of spring off, and you'll never find them. I actually lost mine on the garage floor, but was lucky enough to find them. Once you've taken the pins, actually I've missed a step there. So once you've got the clock in your hand, the actual bezel itself, so this part is actually all one, including the black plastic rear section. Unscrew it anti-clockwise, and then the glass lifts off, and you'll be able to get to the clock face and the needles. Once you take the needles off, literally the face just lifts off. There's no plugs on it or nothing. It's just a cover. Take the cover off, put your new cover on. It kind of clips into place. Then you can just pop your needle back on to the center dial, and your clock hands back on. Now, you may, it's better to take the clock needles off and put them back in the same position you remove them, but it'll never be the case where you put them back in and you start the car up and they're in exactly the same position. So what you want to do, or what I did, is refit the clock back into its position and leave this bezel loose. Torx it back up underneath, fit the panel back in as it is now. You can unscrew this and screw it back on. In actual fact, if you could do that, you probably don't need to take it out of the car, but I would do, because it's much easier. And you can adjust these, so you can adjust the center needle, and you can adjust the tiny hands to the reference of the clock, because they'll be wrong when you power your car back up, but you can just physically move them slightly to the correct time. And every time you turn your ignition off, you'll note that this spins round and it goes back up to the 60 minute. That will likely be slightly off, but you can physically move that. It's trial and error. It took me about 3 or 4 times to get that right, and that's as simple as that. The speedo itself is even easier, to be fair. So you've got this panel which just pops off. So again, a trim tool underneath here, pop this panel off. You've got this panel, a couple of clips, again trim tool under there, pop this off. Your illuminated ignition barrel light will just unclip the cable, and there's also a cable there for the cabin temperature sensor. Just unclip them, move them all the way. And then you've got your actual steering wheel cowl. Now underneath here there are 2 holes. They're both T20s, and this cover will pop off. Underneath here there's a T20, and there's a T20, and there's a T20 there, and there. Now those two, that one there is for holding this trim underneath there. Actually, you don't even need to take that off, to be fair. Those two, I later discovered that the main Torx 20s you don't have to take off, because it takes this panel off, and you don't need to take this off. The small T20s there's one there and one at the other side. That actually holds this plastic this plastic cowl on. Now this, once you've taken the little bolts out of this bit, these two clips, this will just literally pop off, and of course you've undo this section. So this and this lifts out the way. And then you've got right in front of you, so you've got another T20 which holds the clocks in. So you've got one there behind this plastic piece. So there's two at the top that hold the T20 in, and then underneath, you don't have to take anything else off. Underneath, if you get on your back and look up in here, you can see two female T8s straight up, and they're the two bolts that hold the clocks in. So there's one under there. You'll be able to see this or not. And there's one under there. Maybe show you easier. So under that, through there, and through that section there, you can see the T8. So they're a female Torx 8. Oh, I don't even think they're actually called a Torx. I'll show you a picture of the tool that you need, and it needs to be on a 1/4" extension bar, or I use 2. Then once you've taken those out, literally the clocks lift out. Unplug the connector, and there's like a green aerial connector, which I think is, I have no idea what that is, to be honest. The unplug the multi-plug, set the clocks in the house. The cowl just clips off the front, and your little trip that just pops off as well. Just be careful with that. Just pop that off. It's just a push fit. And then once you've got the clock faces off in the house, and that, you literally, again, just gently prise the needle forwards, and the needle will pop off, and then you literally just remove the face plate, just lift it off and put your new one on, and then it's just reverse procedure. Really easy. And just put your needle back to how you found it. I'll go back in the house and I'll just get you a picture of the tool I used.